There are many ways to become dummy rich, and one of them is being a basketball player. NBA stars have been known to get paid a lot of money to play, combined with their income from endorsements and other, ventures. Heck, the Forbes list of the world's highest paid athletes has a lot of basketball players in it, including LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Stephen Curry. However, some NBA stars have made some pretty dumb financial blunders and they lost all their money. In this video, we're going to be looking at those NBA stars and their very, very dumb decisions. One of the greatest achievements that a basketball player can have is getting a contract to play worth millions of dollars. These contracts mean that a basketball player is going to be living the fancy life and end up with just a boatload of cash, like the amount of cash that would actually fit in a boat, not just an expression, until they, screw up their investments. This was the case of the famous WNBA star Sheryl Swoopes. Sheryl was the first player to be signed into the WNBA, a three-time WNBA MVP and one of the league's top 15 players of all time. She was even often compared to Michael Jordan on the basketball court. However, her financial life ended up being a cautionary tale to all. Sheryl earned roughly $50 million in her 11-year career and even had an endorsement deal with Nike, which gave rise to the Nike Air Swoops. However, all that money was lost and she filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy in 2004. Apparently, Sheryl Swoopes had lost almost all of her earnings in a series of really bad investments and poor money management representatives. Bankruptcy records also revealed that she owed thousands of dollars to creditors, including the Internal Revenue Service, and she ended up having to sell some of her own awards and mementos. Some people would say that Jason Caffey isn't the typical definition of an NBA star, but that doesn't change the fact that he kickstarted his career by winning 2 titles with the Chicago Bulls. Playing for 3 different franchises helped the NBA player become pretty rich, but it didn't last long. Jason Caffey wasn't exactly a star player, especially during his time in the Chicago Bulls, but he managed to earn $34 million throughout his career. He went from making less than $1 million in his first 3 seasons to receiving a sizable increase in his second season with the Warriors. His highest salary came in 2003 to 2004, when he was paid $5,687,500. But he lost all of it due to quote-unquote personal problems. Jason Caffey was making major moves on and off the court, ending up with 10 kids from 8 women. The main reason for his financial troubles was child support payments. Despite earning millions on the court, he filed for bankruptcy in 2007 when many of his women sued him for child support. Reports say that an Atlanta judge ordered Jason Caffey to be arrested after he failed to pay over $200,000 in child support and legal fees to one of the mothers of his children. There are several basketball players whose names are pretty famous in the NBA world. One of those players is Scottie Pippen. Scotty's a basketball legend, and is a pretty big one at that. And he's known to support Michael Jordan on the basketball court very often. However, being a basketball legend doesn't mean much when you fall into hard times. Scottie Pippen earned about $109 million from his NBA salary alone, but he made a lot, and I mean a lot, of terrible financial decisions. In 2002, he bought a Lemon Gulfstream jet for $4.3 million, but didn't have it inspected. He ended up spending another $1 million in repairs before the plane could actually be used. But surprisingly, that wasn't even the worst of it. Scottie also was duped out of a whopping total of $27 million, including a $1.4 million loan by a financial advisor that the Chicago Bulls recommended. Scottie was even forced to sell his house as a result. In a separate financial error, Scottie also lost a $3.5 million investment in a South Side real estate deal, which he never actually filed for bankruptcy, but he still went broke for a long number of years. At this point in the video, we've seen NBA stars who have gone broke as a result of some bad financial decisions. What if the financial decision that bankrupts a player is their own body? Does it count as a bad financial decision? While you ponder on those questions, let's look at Larry Johnson. Larry was drafted to the Charlotte Hornets, becoming an instant fan favorite and a 2-time All-Star in Charlotte. He later moved to the New York Knicks, where he nailed one of the most classic 4-point plays in NBA history, while also being a fan favorite. His earnings total over $80 million throughout his NBA career. However, that was all ended due to some back injuries, causing him to retire at just 31 years old. Larry's back injuries required expensive surgeries, as they were the only way for him to, function. By 2015, he had filed for bankruptcy when it was confirmed that he owed a huge amount of child support. Reports say that he owed one woman around $890,000 for child support, and the only way he could settle his debt was to offer her his house in California. Lavish spending is one of the many ways that a bright future and rags to riches stories can end up in the ditch. Derek Coleman might just be the poster boy for that particular statement, as he had one of the most promising starts of his NBA career. He actually started his career with the promise of an illustrious career. Derek was the number 1 overall pick for the New Jersey Nets, and he spent the first 5 years of his career there. He won the 1991 NBA Rookie of the Year award, and followed that up with consecutive All-NBA selections in 1993 and 1994, receiving his first and only All-Star nod in 1994. He played 10 more seasons for 3 different teams and earned over $90 million. Who knew it wouldn't take that long for all that money to just disappear? Derek retired in 2005, and by 2010, he'd filed for bankruptcy. How he lost all of that money remains completely unknown, but Derek, he was well known for his lavish spending, his luxurious lifestyle, and his partying. That kind of life can only lead to, brokenness. But Derek survived it, and he ended up going back to school and getting a degree. There's a popular saying that goes, "Pride goes before a fall." The meaning of that saying is not lost on any of us, and the life of the Latrell Sprewell serves as kind of an example of the saying. He was still one hell of a basketball player with the Warriors and the Knicks, as well as a 4-time NBA All-Star player. Even though he was a fantastic basketball player, he had many well-documented attitude issues, especially the well-known choking of his then-head coach, PJ Carlesimo. However, that didn't prevent him from earning nearly $100 million in his career. Regardless, his attitude issues still got in the way of his progress. "I got a family to feed." Those words will haunt Latrell Sprewell's life, especially after he turned down a $21 million contract extension with the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2004. He never signed another contract after the 2005 season, and he lost everything 3 years after his retirement. In 2008, federal marshals repossessed his yacht after he failed to keep up with the payments for it. Months later, his $1.5 million home went into foreclosure after defaulting on his mortgage. His life was the perfect example of terrible, prideful decisions. Another way that millionaires have lost all their money and gone broke is through drugs and alcohol addictions. These are serious problems that could plague anybody and subsequently ruin their lives and chances at a better future. That's exactly what happened to Vin Baker. Vin Baker was one of the most impressive young forwards of the 90s. He spent his career's first few seasons with the Milwaukee Bucks, where he grew into a perennial all-star. Vin Baker was a major offensive threat in his prime. However, none of his Milwaukee Bucks teams were good enough to make it to the playoffs. He was a 3-time All-Star player, and promising play got him just over $97 million in career earnings. However, Vin Baker's financial struggles were well known. He started to struggle greatly during and after his NBA career with alcoholism and drug addiction, which flung him into a severe financial crisis. This financial crisis caused him, as often is with financial crises, made him broke. But he managed to put in the work to get clean and completely turn his life around. He got help from Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, who owned the Supersonics during his playing days and began to manage a Starbucks in his home state. He currently works as an assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. If the journey from millionaire status to bankruptcy were a race, Antoine Walker would have probably won first place, and maybe a Guinness World Record. That's just how bad things ended up for this NBA star. And no, he was very popular. He earned a lot of money during his NBA career. Heck, he was mostly remembered for winning the NBA championship in 2006 along with LeBron James. At an undersized height of 6'8" for a power forward, Antoine Walker was able to become successful in the NBA despite his height. It was believed that he never met a shot that he didn't like to take, as that was just the type of player that he was. He was a 3-time All-Star NBA player who had his top individual seasons for the Boston Celtics early on in his career, averaging 23.4 points per game and 8.9 rebounds per game at his peak. He was also a major contributor to the 2006 Miami Heat team that ended up winning the NBA title. His career paid off as he earned that over $105 million. However, all of that ended up being pointless for Antoine Walker. Just a year after he won the NBA championship with the Miami Heat team, he filed for bankruptcy, while he was still trying to keep his NBA career going with the Minnesota Timberwolves team. According to Antoine Walker, his financial troubles had a significant contribution from his terrible gambling habits, and the legal fees after a few run-ins with the law, apart from his marriage-related issues. He was also known to have sold his Miami Heat ring for money, but has managed to dig himself out of that hole. You can catch him as a regular on ESPN's morning and midday NBA programming. And there you have it, my friends, my internet stranger friends. Thank you for watching the dumbest NBA stars who went completely broke.